Hello, fellow bibliophiles. Bibliophiles? Let's do this again. Hello, fellow bibliophiles. It has been a long time since I have done this, but I am finally on summer vacation from college, and I have graduated with my AA in digital media, and now I am bored and I am going to make a video. Do you like my shirt? This is Chernobog. He is one of the most villainous Disney villains in the history of Disney villains. What? Yes? I don't know. He is from Fantasia, and if you don't know what Fantasia, I don't know if you could, wait, that's my shirt. He is from Fantasia, and you know, if you've ever seen Fantasia, he's the one at the end where the music is like bum, 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 bum. You know, like that. So today we are not going to be talking about books versus movies. We are going to be talking about a TV show versus real people's lives. I don't know if you know this, but Fox has just launched a new television series called Houdini and Doyle, and it is one of the best shows, and I love it. And no, they're not paying me to say that. I just wanted to talk about it because I'm a really big fan of Houdini and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. And I know quite a bit about, well, I know more about Harry Houdini's life because I've read the book on his life. And I'm more familiar with Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, oh my god, Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's work, but I know a little bit about his life because if you know about Harry Houdini's life, you do know a little bit about Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's life because their lives were so connected. So let's get to a little bit of backstory on their lives, and then we will get to the comparisons in the show, and that's gonna be fun because it's a good show. It's a really good show. If you don't know who Harry Houdini is, I have nothing to say to you because everyone knows who Harry Houdini is, one of the greatest magicians in the history of America. Unfortunately, he died kind of tragically. But that's another story completely. During Harry Houdini's long, glamorous, and often very painful career, he spent a lot of time in Europe after he became famous in America, and he thought, why not go to Europe? He spent a lot of time in Great Britain, and he did in fact befriend Sir Arthur Conan Doyle. But sadly, this friendship didn't last very long, mostly because of a very big thing called the spiritualist movement. It was a very controversial movement at the time because a lot of people were just very critical of it, and it was hard to believe and all this stuff. And this movement was something that Sir Arthur Conan Doyle was a big part of. He believed so deeply in the supernatural that it kind of clouded his better judgment. It's incredible to think that this doctor who created one of the most logical characters in literary history was so superstitious. Then again, Sherlock Holmes's most memorable and one of my favorite quotes is, once you have eliminated the impossible, whatever remains, no matter how improbable, must be the truth. And eliminating the impossible was definitely something that Harry Houdini set out to do. You see, Houdini was a showman and a master of illusions, and when he saw what the spiritualists were doing, just wasn't having any of that. The spiritualists will often conduct what is known as seances. A bunch of people would sit around in a circle around a table, and there'd be one medium there who would contact the dead, would be possessed by these people's loved ones, and strange noises could be heard, and lights and all over the place, and often ectoplasm would come out of their mouths, and it was kind of disgusting. Now, Houdini, being the skeptic that he was, would often go to these seances and debunk all of their tricks. He knew exactly what they were doing because he would often resort to the same type of tricks himself in his shows. He would act like he would come back to life, and he would often do a trick where he would be locked in a box, and the box would be locked from the outside, and he would say that his spirit would rise out of his body and unlock the door, unlock the box. So he knew exactly what they were doing. Doyle would often dismiss Harry's skepticism and say, oh, you just aren't a believer, and you haven't seen anyone who can really do all this stuff. Even though Doyle himself believed that almost every single medium was a true medium, despite how many times they would fool him. To Doyle, mediums, the afterlife, past lives, all of these things were very much real. And fairies. Yes, that is right. The man who created Sherlock Holmes believed that fairies were real.
Fairies, guys. Fairies.
Harry and Arthur often bumped heads over this issue, especially since Doyle thought that Harry Houdini was a medium and that he did have these powers and he just wasn't telling Doyle. Yeah, at first, Houdini's original quest was to disband the spiritualists because they were preying on the weak and grieving public. He thought it was unfair that these people who just wanted to speak to their loved ones one last time were being ripped off by these people who were just giving them stupid tricks. When Houdini's mother died, his quest did a complete 180, and instead of going to debunk them, he would just go to these seances and say,
Alright, show me what you got.
Because he wanted to know if there really was an afterlife, and if his mother would in fact try to contact him. Doyle, on the other hand, was so interested in the spiritualist movement because he had so much loss in his life. Arthur's wife, Mary Louise, who he did in fact nickname Tui, did come down with tuberculosis and die. And then during World War II, he had his son die, his brother die, his nieces, his nephews, and his son-in-laws. Even believing the fakes, these fake mediums, was some sort of connection to the afterlife and his loved ones. So let's get to the fun part. Let's get to the comparisons.
My legs are so sweaty.
So the way this show is set up is that Doyle and Houdini are both people who investigate. They're not even detectives. I don't even know why they're investigating these supernatural cases, but they are. And so anytime something happens where it's unusual or there's a ghost involved, they are the ones who try to figure out what is happening. And there's a perfect contrast between Doyle and Houdini, because Doyle is always so much the advocate that these things are real, whereas Houdini is the one who has a level head and says, no, I know exactly how this is happening, and there's nothing supernatural about this. But towards the end of every episode, they kind of come together, and both of their theories kind of make sense. So they are both in agreement, and I think it's just the way that the episodes play themselves out. It's just so perfect, and I love this show, and
God, Fox, please don't cancel the show.
First thing I noticed about the show is that both Harry Houdini and Sir Arthur Conan Doyle are being portrayed in the most perfect way. I'm so happy with the way that they're portraying Doyle, because it would have been so easy to just portray him as this crazy, eccentric guy who would wave his fist at non-believers and say,
Damn you, why don't you believe in the afterlife?
His personal beliefs aside, Doyle was an intelligent man. He wasn't stupid. He was a very highly trained doctor, and he was very logical. He just believed in something so much, and he wanted to believe that there was an afterlife, and that kind of skewed his thinking. I think how they're portraying him in the show is lovely. In the show, he's very logical, but he does have this underlying faith in the afterlife and supernatural. The way Harry is portrayed is perfect, because he was pretty much like that. He had a huge ego, which was why he died when his appendix burst and they told him that they needed to operate. He said, no.
Oh no, I'll be fine, don't worry, I'll get up, it'll all be great.
But that's essentially what killed him. And he was constantly making wagers with people. He would go to these he would go to these other magicians' shows and in disguise and basically stand up in the middle of their performance and say, I will give you $100 if you can get out of my handcuffs, and if I win, I get it, or, you know, stuff like that.
The guy was kind of obsessed.
But in the back of his mind, he also would say that I am nothing but lies. I have been tricking the public and I am a fraud, which is something that he seems to be struggling with in the show. Harry was also a little bit of a ladies' man, but he was only married once, and that was to Bess, and that is probably the only inconsistency in the show, is he is technically single, I'm assuming. I mean, yeah, he's pretty much single. But when he was in Europe, he was already married to Bess. Of course, Harry not being married to Bess, I understand why, is because they obviously needed some sort of love interest in the show, and it makes it more interesting. By the way, does anybody love Constable Stratton as much as I do? This girl, she's amazing. So Constable Stratton is this woman constable who is probably one of the first women constables. One of the first, yeah. So in the beginning of the show, she's kind of treated like a secretary, even though she is a licensed constable. She's in the basement, and she often has to go up and make tea for all the other constables, but towards the middle of the first episode, she becomes finally a constable and ends up helping Houdini and Doyle with their investigations. So, if you want to watch an amazing show about Houdini and Doyle, and whether, while it's not completely historically accurate, that doesn't matter because they're just making a story and using two amazing people and characters, and it is a really fun ride, and I think everyone should be watching the show because it is so good. So, yeah, that's my pitch. Go watch it. It's on every Monday after Gotham, which is another amazing show. So I just end up watching it right after Gotham. If you want to check out my blog, jennatheleo.com/blog, you can click the link in the description. Thank you very much. And this is in comparison. This video is in comparison. What? No. This video is the counterpart, there we go, to my blog, and it will go hand in hand. Sometimes I'll be writing some things, and sometimes I'll be making videos. I guess if something is not exactly books versus movies, I'll probably make videos about it. And so yeah, thanks for liking this video, and if you like it, tell your friends. Don't tell your friends. Do whatever you want. This is your life, okay? Yeah, one love for life. So let's get to a little bit of backstory. What are you doing? Why? My brother, ladies and gentlemen.
God, Fox, please don't cancel the show.